you know what? When I was getting through the HBS interviews, they asked me, "Why do you want to be here?" So the one of the favorite questions they have, and I was like the most like strangest answer they would have ever heard. I said, "I'm there for the network and the brand," and they said that's the worst answer we've ever got. Actually, they said that, and in 2 minutes they sent me the admission letter because they said, "Hey." Then I asked the admissions head later, "Then why did you admit me?" Because I gave like the most rudimentary answer possible. Otherwise, people have those long essays and whatever. They said most of Indians are here for that. They just put it around in such a circular way. Mhm,
Welcome to Podcast for School Kids. It's
mhm.
going to be a fun, freewheeling, and honest conversation. With me, I have today is Mr. Visham Sikand, who, like I like to put it, was an entrepreneur before entrepreneurship was cool in India. And that is not in any way indicative of your age, but more of your experience, expertise, and intellect, which I guess when once everyone listens to our conversation, they'll realize that. So thank you so much for being with me. It's an absolute pleasure and delight to have you. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation we're going to have today. So thanks again for joining.
Thank you so much. At least I'm talking to someone who has equal or more knowledge than I have. So congratulations on that. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. So my first question usually is to just get the blood flowing, before we get into the game, and it's going to be very open ended. And that is, how are you? How has life been? And I ask you that very particularly because I think just when the world thought that we've arrived, this is it, a
Mm-hmm,
pandemic hit us. And
mm-hmm.
we were confined to our homes, we were locked down. So, how was it to be an entrepreneur during these times, given that businesses essentially function on trust? They
Right.
cannot function in a trust deficient economy. So, how was it working as an entrepreneur during these unprecedented, uncertain times, both
Okay.
on personal and professional fronts?
Yeah. Okay. On the personal side, by the way, I came down. I was studying at Berkeley till 12th of March. I think 11th of March was Holy back last year. And I came down one day before that. And when I was in Berkeley, suddenly in the class, everybody started putting up. Obviously, I was studying data science over there. And everybody's teachers started putting up their models over there saying that 40 to 70% of the world is going to get affected. I was like, are they kidding us, or are they like, do they want us to go back to our homes or something? So at that time, I called up my home and said, "These guys are talking about some pandemic hitting, in which their models say 40 to 70% of the world will be affected." So that's what I came back from, and I came back to a country where again there was a lot of pollution. So I said, "Well, somehow maybe God is making this happen. Like the pollution will be lesser, the animals will be freer." So that's what. So I started with a very very positive note. Out of the last 12 months, I've stayed 11 months at my farm. So for me, this was quite a break. So I was swimming. I did about 200 kilometers of swimming, lots of cycling, trekking. So I've enjoyed it very much personally. Family time, time to like refresh my brain, enjoying nature, coming back. So a lot of good things on that side. Professionally, it goes up and down. Obviously, we all expected. So we had enough funds as a company for quite a few months. Then again, but after 12 months, again the pandemic seems to be not going over. So it's the crest and throw that you always have in business. So that's what it is. And otherwise, yeah, this is where it is fun. So I'm an entrepreneur. I like to take the challenge head on. So that's what's happening. But otherwise, all very good. I think this has been good in a lot of aspect for the rest of the humanity, other than the people, yeah, right now talking here. So for the animal race,
That's
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad. And as a swimming enthusiast, I am completely envious of you because I could not swim through the summer and I was like, I need to get into the water. So I
I'm going
scuba
to show,
dived though.
show you my pool party pictures then on this great podcast. I've had enough of them
Oh,
over
I
there.
wish, I
Quite
wish.
in a safe environment, yeah.
Right. So, moving on, another question that I have for you. Let's start from ground zero. I remember you mentioning somewhere that education is really important, and your life has been a testimony to it because you had your engineering degree, you had an MBA from MDI, you worked at Maruti and then at a bank, and then just when you had your own startup, you were becoming conventionally rich. You were on the Wall Street Journal, you were on Business Day. You sold your startup, and then you decided, you know what, I'm going to go to Harvard Business School and pursue an executive MBA. Contrast it to the way I, as a 19-year-old, see the world where students as young as 21, 22, they're dropping out of their undergraduate schools, let alone graduate schools, and they're starting up. So they're doing their own things, they're launching their own ventures, they're pursuing their big entrepreneurial dreams. So how do these two scenarios, pan out in your view? Do you still hold on to that thing that you said, 8 years back, that education is really important? Should we, as prospective entrepreneurs, still look out on having a very strong educational foundation?
It's like, yeah, it's a good question, but you know what? Everybody is not a Shah Rukh Khan. So, like, those people who leave schools at 19 are those people who have the skill in them all throughout. They would know Shah Rukh Khan from whatever I know of him, he used to walk on his toes. He used to be good at hockey. He used to be good at cricket, good at good at education, and whatever the way he talks. So some people know it. I was not that kind. I was super geeky till the age of 18, and then yeah, I think I had to ensure that I have a soft cushion to land on. So, and obviously the way you're brought up, some people are brought up in business families. I was brought up in a service family. So it depends on your bringing up. It depends on actually how well you develop yourself during school. So if you have the knack of things in you, you should kind of know that. Otherwise, you could be a person like me where you study a lot so that tomorrow if you have nothing, there's something to go back to. So that's what. So I think it's an answer to the person's personality. It doesn't have a fixed answer to anyone generically. They could be a person who has started up Oyo. They could be a person who dropped out from Harvard Business School like Mark Zuckerberg. But they could be a person who's continually studying. Like even my current business, I went ahead and doing a full-time program at Berkeley only because I didn't understand data science in my office. So I'd said, hey, better let me study further for me not to be embarrassed by my team itself. So that's my reasons. And yeah, so that's what it is. Yeah.
That's great. But do you still think having an educational background would work well? Having that MBA degree and having those kind of networks, especially when you go to HPS, does that give any entrepreneur an edge over the others?
Right. You know what? When I was getting through the HBS interviews, they asked me, "Why do you want to be here?" So the one of the favorite questions they have, and I was like the most like strangest answer they would have ever heard. I said, "I'm there for the network and the brand," and they said that's the worst answer we've ever got. Actually, they said that, and in 2 minutes they sent me the admission letter because they said, "Hey." Then I asked the admissions head later, "Then why did you admit me?" Because I gave like the most rudimentary answer possible. Otherwise, people have those long essays and whatever. They said most of Indians are here for that. They just put it around in such a circular way that we kind of ignore the rest and we finally go for the fact that are they coming for the brand because you guys are already smart enough for something like that. So broadly, I'm just saying, still continuing on that thought process that yes, the network, for example, when I reached there, I realized that maybe out of the 500 top Fortune 500 CEOs, at least 250 were from the top three Ivy School MBAs. So the network helps, the alumni email that you get, you can write to any one of them. So one among those reasons are the reasons. And obviously, if as I said, if you're a Shah Rukh Khan, you know how to network even without all that. You can. For persons like me who have to dredge it harder, they have to get to those networks. But yes, not that I was bad in networking, not to misguide the youngsters on this
We'll
podcast.
come
That
to that. Yeah.
I was always good at that, just that it adds to a different level. So I'll give you a small example. The person on my next room used to be part owner of the Yankees. The person in front of me used to report to Bill Clinton there in the rooms. And right now, one of the persons has become the CIO of US. So it's the level of the group also changes with the kind of education. So I think it's just probably allowing me to further level change the level of my network. And maybe the vision also.
Absolutely. And I think moving on, so you worked at Maruti, you worked at a big bank, and then you started up, you had your own initiative. The way I like to put it, in LinkedIn's languages, it was a transition from being a small fish in a big pond to being a big fish but in a small pond. So, how do these two? What's the essential difference between working for a big company, say a TCS, McKinsey, or a Google, versus working for a startup like, say, a Gold 101, Cred? And how should one essentially early on in their career recognize that what's the right kind of environment? How should I know what is it that I'm cut for?
Okay. So by the time was passing out from my engineering, I kind of realized that maybe I can be a bit of a smart guy. So I realized that, hey, you know what? Because I went from Delhi to Chandigarh, actually, that's a good idea. From a bigger city to a smaller city, you start feeling good about yourself because you're maybe just about better with your communication and all that. So I started feeling that, hey, you know what? I cannot be that bad compared to maybe 95% of India. And that's where I gained confidence. during my MBA days. I did get admission in other colleges, but I was like, hey, I want to be now in around Delhi, and so that's where I started gaining confidence. And just to tell you on the Maruti story, it's interesting. So I was the first person on campus to get whatever the placed over there because I used to have the gap of speaking at that time. By then I had gained that. And so at that time there was a head of new businesses who had come with the HR head over there, and he said, I told him that, hey, I don't want to join the normal Maruti business line because that's like very normal. I want to join something in the new business. So he said, hey, you know what? That comes at a lesser salary because we're looking at younger people like straight from like graduation or undergrad over here, as you call it. Right. So I said, I don't mind. I'll take approval from my campus. And so that guy, by the way, his name is R.S. Kalsi, and he's now the ED and the head of India for Maruti. I think the only example he gives to all the kids who join ever is about me, saying that he had complete clarity that he wanted to be a businessman. So I joined him in the new business. We set it up to a huge initiative. From there onwards, the only thing I realized was to gather corporate experience, some network, learn from the corporate, and then build my own thing. So I learned scale, I learned how to build network, and that's how I built my first company in 2008. And that's how I transitioned. Obviously, I find doing a normal job very boring now. Well, I know even probably then. So because the things are not in your hand, you're still obviously trying to go as per what people want. So I really encourage the entire world to be entrepreneurs. If they are, the world will be a very different place. Even if you're in a job, they say you have to be an entrepreneur. When the entrepreneur should genuinely be an entrepreneur, not that hey, for a tick mark we are saying that hey, everybody's an entrepreneur in a company also, but generally you should be looking at hey, what different mark do I bring in the company which stands me out. And if you're not working for equity in the company, skip the company, move ahead and go into a company which gives you equity. Yeah. There's no fun
Absolutely.
adding to salaries. There's no fun adding to salaries. I haven't got a
We
guy who's been rich through salaries, so that I can tell you.
So you just mentioned that you had a realization that I wanted to be an I'm cut for entrepreneurship. This is my niche. This is where I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play in the big leagues. What birthed that realization? How did you realize that entrepreneurship was it for you?
Yeah, I have an interesting example. If you have siblings, if you have a kid tomorrow, so my dad used to the only thing he used to always say, this guy's going to be an industrialist, just to put it in my brain. So I'm just saying. So he used to keep saying that. And developing an industry is extremely tough, by the way, just with the labor and also industry means on the service side is what I finally done. So that used to be always on my head that hey, you know what, my dad expects me to be an entrepreneur, even though he's not himself. And so that's how I finally started resonating so much with him. But as I told you, at the end of engineering college, I realized that I understand people, I can talk to people, I know what kind of requirements will work with them and how will I sell to them. So I understood what product would probably work and I understood how to distribute it. So when you know these two things and you have a pulse of the market, you will be able to crack it. So during engineering, I got my confidence. My father's thing was resonating all the time on my head that I should be an entrepreneur. And probably through this podcast, when I keep telling all the youngsters that you should be entrepreneurs, that will resonate with them in a decision making later down the line. And they should become entrepreneurs for sure.
Right. So, and I could be completely wrong about it, but this is one peculiar feature that I've noticed about you and your career graph is that when you went to people, even with Plat 5 also, and now with Goals 101, they were for sure investing their time, energy, and money into your idea, into your startup. But they were relying more and they were investing more in the person that you are. So they were investing in Goals 101, but their investment was on Visham Sikand, the person that you are. How did you develop this personality or persona? And now that you developed it over the years, how do you still nurture and foster it? And I'm not just saying you as an entrepreneur. I'm saying I'm talking about these several different kind of roles that you play. So how does that personality and the low effort charm of being Visham Sikand it comes into play?
Okay.
And how do you still nurture and foster it?
Okay. So this is hard work, by the way. It doesn't happen just because I laugh in the office, smile in the office, just because I have those degrees or so what happens is that anywhere if somebody would want to join me, so a lot of just to give you the kind of people in the company. So the Oracle MD of India is part of the company, he's an MD in the company. The previous CFO of Airtel is part of the company. The global head of digital is part of the company. The CEO of Amex Asia is part of the company. Previous Google MD for India is part of the company. The group previous Google Facebook is part of the company. So all these guys do a lot of reference understanding of you. One is your personality, how you talk to them, but they will go and say, hey, what do you think about Visham? So while the world will say, hey, Visham is a fun guy, but they will always say that Visham is a guy that you'll be successful with. So you have to ensure that your personality is understood by the world in a way that he's serious in his work while he's a fun guy. So I think this combination for my team, for example, even if I today, tomorrow say to most of my team that, hey, let's go for a X percentage salary cut. Trust me, we will still succeed. I doubt that more than a small percentage of people will start looking out. They will believe the fact that if Isham is saying either it's a lot of trust, things will happen, and we'll enjoy enjoy the things also. For example, so I was talking about some sort of expected salary cut. So I said, hey, it's time to face the. I always talk everything this in the spirit of cricket, right? So I wrote a mail to them today saying that it's time to face the fast balls right now, and after when the balls get old in a few days, we'll all hit the sixes out together. So they all wrote back to me laughing and smiling that, hey, this is the first time somebody would ask for a salary cut in such a way. I'm just saying, so it's a very team spirit, but over years of hard work of your personality being understood in the market that, hey, he will have fun, but he's very, very serious about getting the outcome. So I think that combination helps, and maybe the previous exits and understanding people's empathy. I empathize practically. I don't empathize going and putting a hand on the shoulder of a person. I'll understand practically what's required, and that's what I do. I quietly will go and support the person rather than just going and crying with the person. So that's the difference. Yeah. So yeah, maybe a couple of mix of these personality traits in the past. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Picking from that, be empathy. You mentioned somewhere being shrewd is not bad, and as much as I hate to say it,
No,
I was
that is
that kid. I was that kid who used to study all night and then go to school and say I've not studied much and pretend like, oh shit, I'm gonna fail. But then eventually I ended up doing really well. So why is being shrewd not bad? What do you mean when you say that being shrewd can be necessary sometimes?
shrewd. This euphemistic word for shrewd is being straightforward. So it's like one of my actually. I also when I became an entrepreneur in the first company, I had really big partners in the company, and one of the partners used to be like rudely straightforward. Like he was like, "Hey Visham, I know the company has made, let's say, $10 million of profit. It's not that you're going to get extra salary. We guys are equal partners. You have to do it." So I used to find that, hey, I'm doing everything, and this guy is still talking so rudely with me. Then I realized that down the line that it's good to talk straight. We Indians kind of have an appetite of talking here and there, and maybe saying the same thing in a softer way, which doesn't probably understood well by the person. So rather than me saying that, hey, I will come on this podcast, or I will not be able to come on this podcast, if I say it the other way around, it's considered maybe shrewd or rude. But that's better for someone, for example, anyone to understand, hey, you know what, I have to start thinking of something else. So I'd rather be straightforward and truthful rather than circumventious, which a lot of people are, which allows it to be tomorrow down the line. It takes time for people to understand that. But once they understand, they'll say, okay, this guy is at least telling us what the facts are rather than maybe just fluffing around. So maybe that's that. So it's to be shrewd. I will call it in another way, being straightforward. So that's what's called shrewd here.
So I think you have been networking and socializing since LinkedIn, before LinkedIn came in. Now people use LinkedIn to network. You've been networking and socializing before that. So how do you network? How do you approach people? How do you socialize? And um, probably even if you would like to share one of the most insightful trekking experiences that you've had over the years. So how do you bring everything together and socialize and network? And what do you think is a part of your personality that really allows you to do that?
Okay, so this started again during my engineering days when I said that I was such a shy guy coming out from DPS, typical geeky. DPS archivum doesn't develop your real personality, right? I don't know if you're from there, but yeah. So I'm just saying. So that's where I came, and then I realized that when I went to my engineering college, I realized this power of hi. So I used to cross somebody, or I would say, hey, hi. And because of somebody would actually smile at me or laugh at me and put a strange face, what's wrong with this guy? So slowly, steadily, almost the half the university started knowing me that, hey, this guy is a guy who would always say hi to everyone. This is the guy who will say hi. So I would not remember names. I was always bad with names. So I would, and next time the same person crossing me will say, hey, Visham, I'll say, hey, bro. Hey, hi, hey, dude, hey, good looking, hey, whatever. I used to have this. So the power of hi allowed me to understand the power of networking. So today, even to my clients, at the end of the message or a call, I actually write "I love you" to them. By the way, so just to male clients, by the way. So I'm very open in my approach now because of starting that in that young age. So I would really encourage everybody to open up. So not only do I socialize, let's say when I meet people in individual, I would do one of the maximum number of parties or get-togethers literally in the country. I would never say no to anyone who invites me. As best as possible, obviously. But yes, I don't. Now I've gone off media. I used to earlier be obvious. I used to be a lot on media earlier also. But LinkedIn's and all, if you send me an invite, I would reply back. Like for example, today at 5:30 a.m. you were writing to me, right? I was writing back in in next 2 minutes, right? So that's what. So I like to be very, very responsive. I used long ago when you get encouraged for something like that. The current, as I told you, the ED of Maruti, he said you reply back in less than 2 minutes to anything that's asked to you. That's a skill you should never forgive. Let go. So literally, I've actually seen some of the power guys see that. If you meet them a year ago, I'm talking about really famous personalities. They will remember your name. They look in your eyes while they network, so that they make a connect for life. I try and follow that, and yeah. So some of these traits put together with early life saying hi has brought me to become quite a networker.
So my next question, I think it's more for me than for anyone else who's going to listen to this. So I grew up in a very privileged household, and let alone needs, wants, I am living a luxurious life. Let's put it like that. What is money to you? What does money mean? What does money mean as an individual? What does money mean as an entrepreneur? And you often, mention this difference between being a salaried employee and then being a wealthy man. So, what essentially money means to you? How much money would an individual need to be happy? Does money power your ambition, or is it just a byproduct of it?
Earlier, money used to be one of the critical aspects of it. There's no kind of question about if somebody says so. I'll give you an example of this. During one of my MBA interviews, one of the professors asked me, "What company would you join after this?" And I said, "Let me be different. Let me answer it that hey, I will join something on the social side." He said, "Okay, write down this white paper that you will not join a corporate and you'll join a social service. I'll give you the admission right now." I immediately, in that very moment, changed it. And anybody else would have said, "Okay, sir, I'm going to write it down. You know what, whatever." So there and then I said, "Sir, I said that so that I get admission to this college, and so that after that I get into the corporate world." So, but the reality is, the impact that you can make with money is different. It's a different level of impact that you can do. For example, even if you're looking at impact life, you can definitely help two people on the road. With money, maybe you can help 200. With network, you can obviously still. So money and network is at parallel, and power and network can actually be a parallel to money. So if somebody says that I want to have 100 crore rupees, while somebody says I want to be a influencer or somewhere, you can do the same kind of stuff also. It's not that. So money has their own weights at one side, and the other things can have weights on the other side. But yes, money was a big influencer. I used to, I still love my dad like crazy, so I wanted to give him all the comforts on earth, and I kind of possibly close to that, I brought that. So that was my definite motivation. And you should, uh, everybody has a level. Like, for example, if you're brought at an X, I'm very happy that you're saying that if you realize where you are, then you'll take a delta on that. So I'm just saying, so if you're realizing where you are and you're fighting to do these podcasts for a lot of other reasons, I'm so impressed. And the reason why I came on this podcast was not necessarily two reasons: one for the students and one for the way you approached. So I'm just saying, yeah. So money is a critical aspect. I think there is a money range beyond which unhappiness can probably creep in. It depends. I made my funny one between 30 to 100 CR in India is a happy range. Beyond 100 CR, maybe some problems start coming in. I had these problems. I had literally influenced people coming outside my house and asking for money, and it became tough for me also. That, putting that aside, but I think 30 to 100 CR, if you ask looking for a figure, 30 to 100 CR. When I started, I tell you, I thought 1 CR in my account, I'll get 1 lakh of my interest every month. I'm going to live my life happily ever after. One became five became 30, 30 became 100, whatever. So that's how it changed. But I think 30 to 100 is the happy range. After that, it's just about being a little greedy.